Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I please ask for a roll call?
Commissioner Bergman.
Present.
Commissioner Marsters.
Present.
Commissioner Harper-Patterson.
Present.
Vice Chair Gutierrez.
Present.
And Chair Silverman.
Present. Present. So the next item is public comment. Public comment is designed for items that are not on the agenda. The commission may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed as allowed by the Brown Act. However, the commission's general policy is to refer items to staff for attention or have a matter placed on a future commission agenda. Is there anyone who would like to speak on a matter that is not on the agenda? Seeing no one. Next, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. And as a reminder, and although I've determined that I'm not a terribly good historian, these minutes were presented at the last meeting. I had some concerns about the way that the motion read because I felt that we had been a little bit less, basically that we required as a condition of approval some agreement between the applicant and the and staff regarding noise reduction and construction effects reduction. And I didn't feel that that was reflected by the minutes. I think that it is reflected by the minutes now. So unless anyone has any changes, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, next moving on to a public hearing. I'm going to read the public hearing announcement. Staff will present a report on the history, physical features, etc. on the application, followed with the staff's recommendations. The applicant may then make a presentation. Thereafter, interested members of the community may speak on the proposal. When all interested parties have had an opportunity to be heard, the hearing will be closed and no further discussion from the floor can be held. The commission will then consider the evidence and make its recommendation. If you challenge a public hearing item in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this notice. The public notice or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. Speakers are asked to fill out a speaker's form found by the door and hand it to the recording secretary prior to addressing the commission. The speaker should come up to the microphone to speak since the meeting is being recorded. This will assist staff in preparing the minutes. And the only item for public hearing today is 2821 Majorca Way, consideration of a variance. In compliance with the county's lobbying ordinance, I would observe that the applicant did contact me and asked me to take a look at the site. And provided some feedback and asked for my feedback, and I provided it. With that, is there a presentation?
And I walked the site as well with the applicant, so.
All right.
And so did I.
All right.
As did I.
All right.
I tried, but I wasn't here.
It's all right. I think this is going to be a controversial one. Can we have a presentation, please?
Chair and commission members, my name is Andrea Martisich, assistant. For a variance to allow a proposed addition to exceed the height limit for the main residence at 2821 Majorca Way at the end of the cul-de-sac. The lot is within the RS6 zoning district. However, due to the steep slope, which is over 50%, is also within the Hillside Overlay District. The lot itself is approximately 23,500 square feet. So for the sure. So for the project summary, the proposed addition is approximately 189 square feet, located at the rear of the residence. 89 square feet on the first floor, 100 for a loft addition above that. And as I mentioned before, the zoning is RS6 base zoning district with the hillside overlay due to the steep slope. The owner is preparing to square off the existing recess within the rear elevation You can see on this picture how the rear elevation bumps in for a footprint of 89 square feet. The owner is proposing to do the addition in this area, which would create a flat rear elevation on a continuous plane. And so in this rendering, you see what the proposed house would look like with the addition. Per the RS6 zoning district, residences are allowed a maximum height of 28 feet. However, because this is also within the Hillside Overlay District, there's regulations that apply to the overall height of the home. So in the Overlay District, a maximum height of 35 feet is allowed, measured from the lowest elevation on site where the building touches the ground up to the highest point on the roof. In this case, the property owner is asking for a variance from this provision of the municipal code for the Hillside Overlay District. The loft area would extend past the 35-foot height limit and reach a height of 43 feet. However, the actual height from the top of the roof to the grade directly below, as you see in this rendering, would be approximately 20 feet, which is 8 feet below the base zoning district. And just to point out, the length of that addition at the rear that would actually extend past the 35-foot height limit would be about 12 feet, linear length. And so this section view shows the proposed addition as well as the existing residence. The green line showing the 43 feet is what the applicant is requesting. The red 20-foot shows the addition from ridge down to the grade directly below. 35 feet is the maximum allowable by the Hillside Overlay, and the 38-foot 6 inches is where the house is actually out at now. So the existing residence is also taller than the 35-foot height limit. With the proposed addition, the overall height of the residence would increase 4 feet 4 inches. So in terms of the specific request, it's the variance to allow the addition to go up to 43 feet and exceed the 35-foot height limit, which would be an increase of 8 feet over the maximum allowed height limit. And again, just to point out that the existing residence already is over the 35-foot limit, and that this proposal, if approved, would exceed the existing height of the residence by 4.5 feet for a length of 12 feet. Public outreach was conducted by both staff and the property owner. 8 neighbors responded that they had no concerns with the proposal, and no other neighbors expressed any concerns with the proposal. The applicant performed extensive outreach as well to all of the neighbors. And I listed the findings up on this slide. In order to approve a variance, the Planning Commission has to make all of these findings, which are outlined on the screen for you. Staff believes that this proposal meets all of these findings for several reasons. First, the property is located on a very steep slope, over 50%. And although the lot is very large, most of it is not buildable without extensive grading having to occur on site. The residence itself is oriented towards the front of the lot, and the addition itself with 189 square feet is pretty modest and generally within the existing building boundaries. The actual height of the addition, as I mentioned before, is 8 feet less than the maximum allowable for the base RS6 zoning district. Again, the length of the portion of the addition that exceeds the height limit is 12 feet, which constitutes only about 16% of the entire rear elevation. It's likely that if there were another house on the site, because of the steep slope, any multi-story house would have the same issue of not meeting the 35-foot height limit. We believe that the proposed addition would be minimally noticeable from the front of the lot, and the neighbor located to the rear is upslope a significant distance away. And approval of the variance will allow for a modest addition and not require the owners to try to find other solutions, which would likely include a lot of grading and extra cost to their project. The proposed addition complies with all other requirements of the zoning title and supports the general plan policies regarding hillside development. So this slide provides the recommended motion if the commission chooses to approve the project. And with that, I'm available for any questions. And the property owners are also here as well.
Does anyone have any questions for staff at this time?
Nope.
No.
Okay, thank you. Have you done a presentation to us before?
A while ago. ago.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's
All
been a
right.
while.
It's been a long time.
You did a nice job. Does the applicant wish to speak or give a presentation, which is not required, but you certainly may? Does anyone have any questions for the applicants? I don't see anyone other than the applicants in the audience, and I do not have any speaker slips, but I will open it up for any public comment. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any discussion among the commissioners?
Only to say that I think this is a very nice, modest addition. My only initial concern was when looking at flat drawings, you see kind of the part jut up. So I was a little concerned about the front view, but I think when you see the front view drawings, it makes it clear that it goes with the slope of the roof line. So I think it looks great. That's all I have.
Anyone else? All right. Anyone like to make a motion?
I motion that the Planning Commission approve the request for a variance to allow a rear addition, 89 square foot office with a 100 square foot loft, exceed the 35-foot height limit by 8 feet for a maximum allowable overall height of 43 feet based on the findings and for the reasons incorporated in the staff report and is conditioned in the variance.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to acknowledge Scott Marsters as the seconder today.
Wasn't quick enough.
If I could have all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. That's it. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy your
Thank you.
your new addition.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Okay, moving on. Reports on recent city council act. Did I miss something? It's kind of a letdown, isn't it? After all that. Here's the thing: you can't preparation, right? You can't. You were prepared, and so you didn't have to do anything. There you go. You got it.
Thank you.
Take care. Report on recent city council actions.
No, I don't have anything to report, although in case you had or didn't hear, maybe it's a report on an action the City Council did not take, which was to call up the Planning Commission's decision to approve the Transit Village at its last hearing. The council would be required to call up any action that the Planning Commission has acted upon within a 10-day period, and that did not occur when they had the opportunity to do so at their city council meeting. I want to say it was I can't remember the exact date, but there was one council meeting in between where they could have done that, and they chose not to. We also didn't receive any appeals.
So what does that mean exactly? Does that mean the city council won't see design review at all? I mean, they wouldn't, right?
That's correct.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Planning Commission comments or reports.
Did you guys miss me last meeting? Were you unsure that it was me from Alaska?
I did miss you.
Right.
I was relatively confident it was you. I had
Right.
some doubt,
Right.
but not enough to raise a concern.
Right. No, I mean, there are a lot of people that want to do this for completely free time in Alaska. No.
How was Alaska other than the Planning Commission meeting?
It was very interesting. Yeah, it was great. It was cold and interesting and a lot of fun too.
Okay. Any other Planning Commission comments?
Yeah, I do. A few meetings back, we discussed having some kind of information be brought to the planning commissions regarding traffic and circulation because of our concern of parking downtown and traffic in the areas around there. And I was wondering if any follow-up had been done on that.
And just to clarify, was that information that was, in terms of, you mentioned traffic circulation, was that more in line with parking
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 specifically.
parking specifically.
Yeah, we were talking about, I believe it was Walnut.
It was the Walnut
It was the
development.
Walnut thing that brought it up, and we were concerned about, how narrow the roads were there plans to relieve the parking, or just what the general.
Okay, so what I will do is prior to the end of this year, either on the next agenda or the subsequent one, so what do we have next, December 1st and December 15th remaining, on one of those dates, and I'll take a look at the agenda to make sure it's done on, at a time where we can accommodate it. I will bring back to the commission a presentation on some of the efforts that we have started and are currently underway with respect to downtown parking. There was a downtown parking study. It was more of an occupancy study looking at how our parking was currently being used, the existing parking that we have, looking at our complete inventory of both public and private parking in and around the downtown area, as well as some areas on the east side as well. We can bring that to the commission and share that with you. And what I can also do is provide the commission with a summary of some of the parking management strategies that we are going to be looking at and presenting to council next year. So we have a scope of work that has been approved by the council, and so we're looking at a number of different strategies. And the idea is that we would bring back a report outlining how these strategies would work and what the parameters of those might be in order to get some direction from council in terms of which ones to prioritize, because we recognize that we won't be able to do everything all at once, and some things are more long-term, such as maybe perhaps additional parking garage on the south end of downtown, southern part of Laurel area. So I'd be happy to bring that to you, back to the commission in more of a presentation format, so that commission can understand the efforts underway.
And then you're probably going to cover this next, but when is the housing element coming?
The housing element is, we are targeting December 1st or December 15th. It most probably will be December 15th. So I can talk about that a little bit more, or do you want me to jump into staff comments and updates? If there's more correspondence, you can finish that out.
I was just going to, one of the things that occurred to me, both in the discussion of the Transit Village and I thought the Walnut property, is I was somewhat dissatisfied by what our transportation demand management plans provide. Basically, for example, I thought, where someone was basically just putting a kiosk in a building, that probably wasn't deserving of very many points. And I was wondering whether or not there were other commissioners who had similar feelings, in which case I thought I might ask staff, and maybe they could do it at the same time as the parking proposal, is to maybe provide a presentation around the way the transportation demand management plans are designed, and whether or not we might be able to recommend to the city council to either require additional points for transportation demand management plans, or eliminating or lessening some of the points for existing items. Does anyone feel like that?
Yeah, I agree with that, Dave.
So maybe add that as well.
Yeah, that's something we can definitely do. We can go over, what's required in our current code, what are some of the, how the point system works under CCAG. So we follow, they've done a lot of research, and they've kind of developed a model that we're using, and we can go over the contents of that so that the commission fully understands how that works, and if there's any recommendations you want to make.
And that would be definitely helpful, although I think especially around the Transit Village, I developed an understanding of the way that it works. I guess what I would also kind of like to know is, are there other jurisdictions within CCAG that are either doing something that's more rigorous than CCAG's proposal? If so, what do those look like? What options might we have if we wanted to recommend to the city council to try and get TDM plans that were, put more emphasis on reduced trips and less emphasis on kiosks and that sort of thing, and Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. I understand the difference now.
Okay. Did any other planning commission comments or reports?
I also thought we wanted to maybe look at circulation a little bit. So, a lot of these streets are very narrow with parking on both sides. And so is there a circulation plan for the downtown area, especially this sort of the streets that are surrounding the downtown. A lot of them have, the parking on both sides, which creates very, in a lot of cases, almost one-way traffic, where the cars are pulling off to the side, and we want to look at that circulation as part of this whole parking.
I can definitely consult with staff and Public Works, and maybe they can be part of that presentation as well.
Any other additional Planning Commission comments or reports?
Lisa, are you going to talk about the hotel meeting for the East Side? Can you mention that? Or are you not going to invite Tuesday, December 2nd? Oh, okay. Well, I'll talk about it then. I just got a letter to the East Side neighborhood. There will be a second hotel meeting. For those of you that are not aware, there's a plan to put a hotel on the corner of Industrial Road and Hawley, actually a little bit back. There will be a meeting December 2nd at 7 o'clock in the Loreola building. I will not be able to attend this one. I attended the first one. So I wondered if other planning commissioners were interested in attending. It should be open to the public.
And I can follow up. What I can do is maybe go back and talk with Al Savay and Lisa Costa-Sanders, who are the primary points of contacts for that project, and get a little bit more clarification on the purpose, of the meeting, and send that out via email just as an informational item to the commission.
That would be nice. Okay. Any other additional Planning Commission comments or reports? Correspondence. Is there any correspondence that we haven't seen already?
There is none this evening that you haven't already seen.
Planning staff comments, reports, and updates of current projects.
So to follow up on Commissioner Harper Pedersen's question about the housing element, we are looking to bring that back most probably December 15th. So in terms of a couple of projects that we would like to wrap up with the Planning Commission prior to the end of this year is, number one, it's presentation of the preliminary draft housing element, which we will most definitely get done before the end of this year. That way it can move on to council early next year. And then subsequent to that, it will be sent to the state for their review. And then the other item that we want to bring to the Planning Commission consists of additional amendments to the zoning ordinance. You may recall several months back, we were on track to bring forward an amendment to the light industrial or IL zoning district to allow hotels. We decided to postpone bringing that to the commission so we could do additional outreach with the Greater East Side, San Carlos neighborhoods, as well as with the Harbor Industrial Association. So those have occurred. But along with that particular change, there are about 3 other items, changes to the zoning that we want to bring back as well that we've noticed. So as long as we're coming back for one, we might as well, address a couple of other items. So I would say all told, there might be 4 additional amendments, including the IL, the change to allow hotels in the light industrial zoning district. And we want to bring those to the commission prior to the end of the year. And then what we would do, we would take back the recommendation by the Planning Commission on those additional amendments, along with the other amendments that the commission has already approved earlier this year, and take it forward as one package to the City Council. So they would hear it, because it's a change to the ordinance, they would need to hear it twice, so they'd have a presentation on that. And then it would be brought back to them for a second reading of the ordinance. And then 30 days after that, those changes would go into effect. So it's not going to take effect right away, so there's still a little bit of time that we have to work on that. But we do want to bring back a couple more items to the Planning Commission. Most of them minor. I mean, one of the items that we're looking at is and I don't want to get too much into it, but just so that there's no surprises, is opportunities for additional outdoor dining in the form of parklets or pop-up cafes I think some of you, those might have been suggested to the Planning Commission if any of you were here at the time when the general plan and zoning was being worked on. So this may not be an entirely new item, but this is one thing that we want to bring back, not necessarily in the form of an ordinance change. Perhaps it could be a pilot project, and we'll talk more about that once we bring it back to you. Also, at the last Planning Commission hearing, I think it was Chair Silberman who requested just a brief update on the project on Eaton. This was a lot split. I'm trying to remember the address on Eaton that the Planning Commission heard maybe a month or so ago. This was to do a minor subdivision, divide one lot into two. That was appealed. It was signed by at least 10 to 15 different neighbors are all signatories on the appeal application. And the appellant submitted about a 5-page paper indicating why the nature of the appeal. So staff will be responding to all of that in the form of a council report that will be presented on January 12th. So it'll go to the City Council on January 12th, and the reason for the delay is there were some conflicts with scheduling of the applicant and the appellant. So of course, we want to hear any appeal items when both sides of the party are both available. So the soonest available date is January 12th. So that's when it's going forward to City Council.
Any other planning staff comments, reports, updates on current projects?
None at this time. You know what I'd like to be able to do, and I'm going to put this on an agenda for presentations, is to share with the Planning Commission, maybe using a map, some sort of visual graphic that I can share with the Commission that shows the development activity occurring in and around the downtown. We're starting to accumulate a number of different formal applications that have been filed. As an example, we have 2 on the 500 block of Walnut. One is 530 Walnut and one is 545 Walnut, both of which will come to the Planning Commission eventually when they are ready. But these are, redevelopment projects where there's existing development and where it will be, demolished and built with new. And so there's a couple of them starting to pop up around downtown. So I think it's really interesting to kind of see where those are happening geographically, and so that the Commission at least be aware of them and know what's coming ahead.
Nice.
Yeah.
So before I adjourn, I'd like to observe, I think the shortest meeting ever was 7:17. I believe that was one of Angela's meetings. And I think that I probably could have beaten that record today, but I wanted to leave that
Noted, right.
for Angela.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm not promising that before the end of the year that I won't beat that, but I wanted to let you know that I didn't do it today because I wanted you to hold on to that a little bit longer.
Thank you.
And with that, the meeting is adjourned. you.